Welcome, everybody. It's great to see all of you. We've got a great full house, so we have to get all close and act like we like each other. It'd be wonderful. So I'm Sharon Joseph, if there are any of you that I don't know or haven't met. Now that we've moved to quarterly, we're trying to squash all those monthly meetings into once every 3 months, so you got to pay attention. So tonight our speaker is going to be Jody Donovan, and I know most of you know him, but not everybody does. So Jody's my son, first disclaimer. I'm very proud of him. He's a graduate of the University of Houston with a degree in business. And after that, he went to work for Wells Fargo, where they asked him if he'd like to study for his securities exam. He called me and he said, "Mom, is this what you do?" And I went, "Thank you, Jesus. I have somebody to take over my business when I get old." And it's really worked out well. He has a Series 6, Series 7, and Series 66, which means that he's licensed to sell everything: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, insurance, and he's also licensed as a fiduciary, which we don't talk about much, but there's a lot of commercials about it these days, so I thought we ought to pass it on that that's what we do. So he's been working really hard on this presentation since he had 2 months off where he didn't have to come up with a presentation. So I think it's a really interesting topic, and I'm glad so many of you are here to hear it.
Thank you for that wonderful intro, Sharon. Mom. It's funny, at work I have to say Sharon or Mom, depending upon what hat she's wearing at that time. Thanks for coming. Yeah, what we're going to cover today is the Secure 2.0 Act of 2022. I'm not a politician. I didn't help write any of these bills or laws. I just did a lot of research to understand what is actually going to happen or what's happening right now. So let's get into it. My agenda is to make this less confusing, a little bit less confusing than trigonometry. Is that fair? We can work on that? Okay, cool. So here's our agenda. I'm going to basically explain what the Secure Act is. When did it start? What happened? What's the history of it? And then I'm just going to go through the laws that are effective this year, next year, and the following years. And then I'm going to talk about what's not changing with this new law. So as many of us know, we have a troubled retirement system. Social Security is drowning. They started drawing down the Social Security funds in 2021, and the Social Security Administration, say that 3 times fast, thinks that if we do nothing, that fund will be depleted in 10 years in 2033. That's scary. Another scary statistic that I found out doing this research is that according to the U.S. Labor Bureau statistics, only 55% of the civilian adult population participates in a retirement plan at work. Just over half. And what was more alarming to me is the average balance in employees over 65 years old is just over $58,000 currently. That's not a lot of money nearing retirement. So Congress knew something needed to be done, as we've talked about, and kicked the can down the road for years, and they wanted to come up with some retirement legislation. And they beat their heads over it, as you know they do on everything. They're pulling and pushing and fighting and arguing, but this is one of the first times in modern history that there was so much bipartisanship agreement with this bill, these laws, that it was surprising. So let me take you back to 2019. This is when the first Secure Act was actually put into law. In December of 2019, Donald Trump signed the Secure Act of 2019. And you know our government likes to use a lot of acronyms, so here it is, the Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancements Act of 2019. So that was passed and signed into law by Donald Trump. And surprisingly, the House of Representatives passed their version of the law 417-3. That's a pretty wide margin from normal votes in the House. The Senate had a little more trouble. Actually, our own Republican Ted Cruz held up the Senate bill for a little while because he was trying to tweak the 529 section where he wanted homeschoolers to be able to access college 529 funds, which he accomplished that in the Senate House bill. So what is the Secure Act? What are they trying to do? In short, all they're trying to do is make it easier for Americans to save for retirement, for all the aforementioned reasons that I talked about. In 2019, here's some of the things that were enacted and passed in the first Secure Act. So what they did was they got rid of the stretch IRA. That was where if you inherited an IRA, you could take the required minimum distributions for the rest of your life. Well, now, if you inherit something, a retirement account from a non-spouse, like Uncle Bob, Dad, Grandpa, you have to spend that IRA down within 10 years and pay the taxes on whatever that amount is. So you can take it all at once, pay the taxes, take it monthly. take it all in year 10, but by 10 years, that whole IRA has to be spent up if it's a non-spousal inherited IRA. And a lot of these, you want to think why they're doing this. The IRS is trying to get more money in the kitty now than later. So a lot of these laws are for that purpose, and this is one of them. The second one was a big benefit. They moved the required minimum distribution age from 70 and a half, which it had been for decades, to 72. And that was a nice bump for those that didn't have to start taking required minimum distributions. The next one, they provided a $500 tax credit for employers that started a new retirement plan. This was to incentivize employers to start a plan, and this credit would cover the startup costs of most small business plans. The other one was they allowed part-time employees to participate in retirement plans. Prior to 2019, if you didn't work over 500 hours for an employer, you weren't qualified to participate in the retirement plan. Now, there's no minimum hours. Any part-time employee can participate in retirement plans. I think that's a big step forward. The other one is they allowed the College 529 funds to be used to pay student debt or student loans. Prior to 2019, you could only use a college account fund for college expenses, not pay student loans. So now that's a benefit for parents that have extra money left over and a student loan with debt. They can now pay that without any penalties or taxes. Also in 19, they allowed workers over 70 and a half to contribute to an IRA. Prior to 2019, once you reached 70 and a half, even if you were still working, you couldn't contribute to an IRA. That was silly. They wanted you to stop contributing, but now any age worker, if you're employed, you can contribute to an IRA at any age, even after 70 and a half. You do have to start taking your required minimum distributions once you reach the right age, but you can still contribute. And lastly, on these highlights of 2019, they allowed tax-free or penalty-free distributions up to $5,000 to help families with adoption. So then along comes the Secure 2.0 Act of 2022. This one was signed into law by Joe Biden in December of 22, and it was a part of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023. And so I'm going to try and, when I was doing all this research, I was trying to look at bills, and then I saw this next information. Only a bill, only on Capitol Hill. I kept getting that in my mind because these were two separate bills on Capitol Hill. House Bill 2954 and Senate Bill 1770. They thought, hey, maybe we should get together and help some Americans, you know? Well, they agreed mostly, but this was one of the first bipartisan bills with so much support. And it, again, was a part of the Consolidated Appropriations Act, and one of the sections in there, Section T, was the Secure 2.0 Act. So it was in a bunch of other bills. But just to give you an idea of the bipartisanship, on the House bill, there was 103 representatives working on this bill, 55 Democrats and 48 Republicans. And on the Senate bill, 11 guys and girls were working, 5 Democrats, 6 Republicans. So it was truly a bipartisan working partnership, if you will. But then they brought those two bills and put them in this consolidated bill. So that's where the Secure 2.0 Act is. So let's get into some of the changes that we are going to see starting in 2023. So these next ones are about the relaxed RMD rules, or required minimum distribution rules. So instead of 72 now, the required minimum distribution age is 73. And in 10 years, in 2033, that's going to go to 75. So the people that are, they're pushing that back a little longer, helping people work longer before they have to start taking income and paying taxes on it. And my staff really likes this one because they lowered the penalty for not taking your RMD from 50% of the penalty you should have taken, or 50% penalty on the amount you should have taken, down to 25%. And if you get that corrected within a timely manner, like April 15th, it goes down to 10% penalty. And I say that because every year we told our staff, look, we don't want our clients to get a 50% penalty. We got to make sure that everyone takes their RMD. And we would leave messages and no one would call back, hey, you want to donate it to charity to avoid taxes, or do we need to send you a check? Hello, hey, this is East Cullen again. Have you decided on your RMD? Because we don't want that 50% penalty. Now we can relax a little. It's only 25, can knock it down to 10. We're still going to make sure you get your RMD taken, but they're not going to penalize you as much if something goes wrong and you don't get it out in time. This is my opinion of the Rothification of this law. There's a lot of Roth applications going on, and this is one of my favorites. They now, in simple IRAs and SEP IRAs, you can now do Roth contributions. And a lot of y'all may not know what a simple and a SEP is, so I added this slide. Here's some more governmental acronyms for you to know. A simple IRA stands for Savings Incentive Match Plan for Employees. Simple IRA. Not a simple acronym. They put 2 letters in one word, whatever. But this is a retirement plan for small businesses of employers with less than 100 employees. It works very much like a 401k. The employer matches 3% if the employee matches 3%. But they also have a non-elective of 2%. So this is really good for businesses with fewer than 100 employees. The SEP IRA, SEP stands for Simplified Employee Pension, and it's not really a pension, it's really an IRA, which again, the government acronyms. A SEP IRA is a great retirement plan for sole proprietors or individual employers who have no employees or very few employees. But it's the biggest benefit retirement plan out there because it allows you to contribute up to 25% of your income, up to 61% in 2023. And I have a lot of realtors that really take advantage of that because they can max out a SEP, not have to contribute to anyone else. They don't have any employees, and they can put up to $61,000 or 25%, whichever is less. So now, with this new law, they can do Roth contributions, which I'm excited about because I love the Roth IRAs. I tell all of my clients, if you're under the age limit, under the income limit, you should have a Roth and max it out every year. Now they can do it in multiple ways. And just to be clear, what a Roth IRA is, whenever you hear the word Roth, that means after taxes. So it's money that you pay income taxes on already this year, but all the gains are all tax-free, and you've already paid taxes on the principal. So when you get into retirement, anything with the word Roth on it is 0 taxes. And that doesn't mean a little, that means 0. No matter what the tax bracket is, no matter who the president is, no matter how wealthy you are, whatever you have in a Roth, whether it's a 401k, SEP, simple, or Roth IRA, it's all tax-free. That's the beauty of it. Lastly, on that, employer contributions. Prior to this law, employer contributions in 401k plans had to be pre-tax. Now the employee can choose, hey, I want a Roth or I want pre-tax. So now they have those options as well in the 401ks. Also effective this year is an expansion of startup credits. Remember in 19, they gave you a $500 credit if you started a new plan as an employer. Well, now they're going to give you 100% of contributions for every employee that you have up to $1,000. So that means like if I had a business and I had a simple IRA, I had 5 employees and I contributed at least $1,000 to all of them, I would get a $5,000 tax credit just for contributing to them from my business. So that's another incentive for employers to go, well, why don't I have a retirement plan? You know, you get your fees taken back. Now that's just for startups. It's going to phase down over the first 5 years. So in year 1 and 2, you get 100% credit. In year 3, 75, and then 50, and then 25, and you're done with the credits. So it's, again, an incentive for employers who don't have a plan to get one going and to get a lot back from their contributions. All right, these next ones are what's going to be effective next year in 2024, and a lot of them really have to do with employer-sponsored plans because they really want businesses to offer retirement plans and get people participating. So the first one is a simple plan enhancement. The simple IRA plans that I was talking about for 100 or fewer employees, they are increasing the contribution limits by 10% for next year. It's $14,000 this year maximum if you're under 50. Next year, if you're under 50, it's $15,500, and if you're over 50, there's a catch-up amount. That word catch-up, I'll say that a few times. It's not the red stuff on your table. It's the people over 50. You can add more to catch up. So the catch-up is $3,500. So now $19,000 can be stashed away in a simple IRA in either pre-tax or Roth, which is awesome. Now those bigger, smaller employees, those with 26 to 100, they can qualify for those higher limits if they increase their match amount by 1%. So if they make their match amount 4 and their non-elective 3, which it's currently 3 and 2, so if they bump that up by 1%, then all those employees can get this higher $19,000 or $15,500 if they're under 50. And then lastly on this one, the employer can make non-elective contributions to employees that don't participate in the plan. That's the word non-elective. And this is a really good plan because I have some business owners with retirement plans that are trying to get these kids in the retirement plan, but they just don't want. They're living penny to penny. They're not going to put a penny in the retirement. This gives the employer a way, look, all right, I love you. I want you to stay around. I think you're a good kid. I'm going to put $5,000 a year into your retirement plan. You don't have to put in. I'm just going to do that for you. That's a non-elective. So now that's, or up to 10%, whichever the lesser is. 10% of their income up to $5,000. So that's another way for employers to help younger, non-retirement participants get in there. Also effective next year is required automatic enrollment for participants. And this only pertains to new plans, not existing 401ks or 403bs, but any new plan must have the new employees automatically enrolled in the plan, unless they opt out and say, no, I don't want to stay for my retirement. They're doing this because there's so many 401ks and companies out there that they start a plan, give it to someone, and don't tell them how to do it. Here's your package. Good luck, kid. Go sign up. And they never do. So what this is trying to do is the new plans, any new employee, unless they opt out, has to be automatically enrolled, and it has to start at least 3% of their paycheck, and that must increase 1% a year up to 10, as high as 15, again, depending on if the employee wants to participate. There are some exemptions that apply if it's a small business of 10 or fewer employees, 3 years or less in business, and then churches and governmental plans don't have to do this. But they're trying to push that. And again, this is for those new kids or people that come into a new job and don't get really handheld to start the plan. It's just going to be automatically done unless they say no. All right, also effective next year, student loan match payments. So if an employee has a student loan that they'd rather start paying down, instead of their boss contributing to their retirement plan, they can make that contribution to a qualified student loan payment. Qualified meaning you have to verify it. You can't just send it to Uncle Bob that gave him money for college. It has to be a qualified student loan debt, so that contribution, instead of the retirement plan, can pay off their student loan debt. That's another big deal, and not pay taxes or penalty on it. All right, this one is also effective next year. The first part affects high earners, and they're calling high earners those that make over $145,000 a year, that any catch-up contributions, those over 50, has to be Roth. The reason they're doing that is they want anybody that's making over $145,000, they say, hey, you're in the wealthy group, you have to pay taxes on your catch-ups now. You're going to put them in as Roth. We're going to take that income tax now, so we get paid taxes now. Again, that's one of their reasons to get more taxes now. So any catch-ups on the higher earners must be Roth contributions. And then on the low-wage earners, those under 145, they made a few, I'm not big fans of these two. I'll tell you why. One is the emergency Roth savings account. An employer can open a savings account within the retirement plan for that employee that's there liquid, meaning like a savings account. Or if they don't use it, it stays as Roth money. They pay income taxes on every amount that goes in, but they can get to it as an emergency fund without any penalties or taxes. It's only up to $2,500 a year that you can add to your employee's Roth savings plan. But this is another way to help those employees that just aren't saving. They don't have an emergency fund. They're paycheck to paycheck. Same with this last one. I'm really not a fan of this, but I'm okay because it's only $1,000. But they're allowing emergency withdrawals from any retirement plan for whatever reason you need it for. You don't even need to prove medical hardships or tax debts if you just need it. And the reason they did this, when I researched more and more, I didn't realize that they surveyed hundreds of low earners, and they all responded that if they get an unexpected bill of just $400, they may not be able to pay the rest of their bills that month. It could crush them and dig into their retirement plan. So they allow $1,000 a year, but you can only do that $1,000 once in 3 years unless you pay back that $1,000. So it's not just a free willy-nilly, but it's to help those low-wage earners out of small emergencies under $1,000. All right, this one is also effective. Oh, this is my favorite right here. I love this one. Effective next year, you can take funds from a College 529. If they're not going to use them, instead of taking it out and paying taxes, you can roll it into a Roth IRA for that child. Let me repeat that, because I've had a lot of conversations at at the conference table of parents that are like, I don't know, our 8-year-old's probably going to be an engineer, but our 6-year-old's going to be a ditch digger. I'm not putting money in a retirement plan for him. I don't think he's going to college. I don't think he's college material or something along those lines. But now I can say, well, hold on. Even if he doesn't go to college, you can start his Roth IRA. Now, they have to have been in it for 15 years. The college account has to be 15 years old. But if they don't use it for a PhD or graduate school or law school, whatever, it's not taxable money if it goes to a Roth IRA for that child. And it's only up to $35,000 for the whole time. So there's a limit on it, but it's a way to give more comfort to the parents that are starting a college fund, not knowing if they're go to school or if they get scholarships, they're a genius or a sports athlete, they don't need the 529. Great, goes to a Roth IRA. No penalty, no harm, no foul. Love it. The elimination of the pre-death RMD for Roth 401ks is gone. That's a lot of words. Currently, a Roth 401k, before this law, if you have a Roth 401k and you got to RMD age, you had to start taking RMDs, even though it had the word Roth in it, which is why is that? Why are you doing that? So now, anything with the word Roth does not have to take an RMD, period. If it's a 401k, simple, set Roth IRA, no RMDs are ever required. That's the other benefit of a Roth. You can pass it on to your children. You never pay taxes. They never pay taxes. Whoever takes that out, it's all tax-free. So that's, again, beautiful Roth. Rothification is what I learned in this. Oh. All right, these are the last few effective 2025 or later. So we're getting to the end of this. So in 2025, so I got a few years to figure this one out, is increase the catch-up contributions. Again, that catch-up word, those 50 and over are now at $7,500 in retirement plans, $3,500 in simples, but more importantly, adjusting for inflation. Usually when they do these laws, they put that number up and it's there for till they change the law again, which could be decades. But now, every year, that's going to go up a little bit with inflation. So no matter when you're planning to retire or take that money or add to that money, it's going to keep going up every year. That's a big deal. And then in 2025, they're going to start rewarding those older workers, the 60 to 63 that are still in the workforce, by having a 50% higher catch-up number up to $10,000, whichever is greater. So instead of $7,500, if you're still working at 60 to 63, you got an even higher catch-up amount, again, to get those people to start saving more because they didn't start early enough or soon enough. And then also in 25, I love this one too. I like a lot of these. That's why I like this presentation, sorry. I had a client come to me, he said, hey Jody, I got this old 401k, actually two of them, one's like 1,000, one's like 10,000, but I moved, they bought out another company and I don't get statements, I have no clue where that money is, can you help me find it? And I'm like, I talked to Mom, Mac, we'd never heard of anything like that. Sorry, it just goes to your estate eventually, I guess. Well, now they've heard enough complaints. The Department of Labor is to create a database where you can search for unclaimed benefits in employer plans. So if you have a situation like my friend had and has these two 401ks that he can't find, we can now go to a database. Well, I say now, in 2025, it's the government. We'll see. But that's happening. That's a good thing. All right. In 2026, this is effective in 3 years. This is rewarding the lower income earners again. This is basically a saver's tax credit. Before this law, if you were in the lower income and you put into a retirement plan, you could get a cash credit of up to $100. Well, they're eliminating the cash credit, so you're not getting a tax refund if you contribute, but the government is going to contribute to your retirement plan up to $1,000 a year. Yeah, not from the employer, from the government. Again, it's low earners, but again, this is a way to get those younger, lower income, at least their foot in the door, started with something in the investments. And they're changing this tiered range. It used to be, before this law, if it was under $43,000 in income, you got a 50% credit. If it was 43 to 60, you got a 20%. If it was 60 to 70, you got a 10%. Now, all lower income under 100 is 50% straight across the board. Make it easy. So that's another big incentive for the lower income earners. And lastly, this is the thing that's not changing, which I'm very surprised of. I have a few clients that have this. It's a backdoor Roth. And what it is with Roth IRAs, there's income limits. Hypothetically, right now, married, filing jointly, I think it's 187, something like that. So if a couple makes over that, they can't do a Roth. Well, a backdoor way is, and I have some doctors and CPAs that do this every year, is they contribute to a non-deductible traditional IRA, the $7,000 max last year, and then the next day convert it to a Roth IRA. So they're not contributing to a Roth because that's illegal. They're contributing to a non-deductible traditional IRA and then Roth conversion the next day. So they're doing Roth conversions every year. They pay the taxes on it. When they do the conversion, they got $7,000 extra income that they owe taxes on, but it's in a Roth now growing tax-free. I thought for sure this would go away with this law because they were talking about it. There was a billionaire executive that converted a bunch of his stock shares to Roth, and he retired with like $1 billion in income that IRS was getting nothing from. Zero. So they're like, we got to do something about this. Let's talk about these backdoor Roths. Well, kicking the can down the road. Thanks for my clients to have them. So that is what's not changing. So, as George Foreman once said, the question is not what age do I want to retire at, it's what income. You have to figure out what income level you can get to provide the income that you want in retirement. And I always like to end on a good quote. Now, lastly, I said I'll answer some questions if I can. If I can't answer it, I will get you the answer another day. But that's the end of the presentation, so thank y'all.